a lot of certification on belt, and I love Microsoft certification, to be honest. And Microsoft Learn, a couple of speakers have mentioned, that's my go-to place. If I want to learn something new, docs.microsoft.com, that's my go-to place as well, where I can get plenty of recommendation details and everything available on the fingertip there. Search has been brilliant, export into PDF, offline reading, a fantastic tool. So yeah, that's me. Let me just go to the next slide. So particularly financial services, I have broader experience, but in particular financial services, these are the different verticals I have actually implemented plenty of solutions, and the areas I have covered, and that includes like multiple implementation of PaaS, platform as a service, SaaS, software as a service, and that includes Dynamics as one of the part, iPaaS integration platform as a service, which I normally name it that way because it's got the API management gateway to monetize my microservice architecture. I have logic app functions, app services, all these different apps which can really help me to do a rapid development, low code, no code approach in logic app, some enhanced coding work into like an app services where I have a different type of multiple language supports available, and also like in the function could be another way to actually monetize this. And plus API management, it's pretty much like if you have exposure to MuleSoft, something I cannot compare like to like, but it's something similar way. You just have to have those endpoints internally exposed through API management and give it to your consumers. And that consumers could be another system, another platform, another sets of team. Example, if you want to integrate like open banking, or if you want to expose your financial institution to open banking, those are the tooling are kind of your go-to place as well. That's like in a Microsoft house, particularly when you're into that. So that involves like in a banking, where the retail banking, commercial banking, wealth management, asset management, and investment. But when we think about all this area, there are a lot of responsibility comes with that. I just grabbed one of this high-level diagram, which is not really justifying all the Azure services, but it gives you the core areas of it. So far in the other sessions, I can see the other speakers have given you more details about Power Platform, their services, Dynamics 365, which we used to call a CDM, Common Data Model, and there are different apps, flavors, which is brilliant. But how can we extend it? How can we make it more enterprise level? How can we actually solve a lot of other integration problems, which normal in typical any organization have, not only financial, but every organization can have. And plus they want to adopt new features. Consumers are demanding now. Customers, they want, oh, can I have a chatbot? Can I have a middle of the night? I can ask my question. You cannot have 24/7 customer service available. It could be too expensive. It's like you have to have a global reach. To solve those problems with a cost in mind to keep it low, and also reducing a lot of a traditional infrastructure approach. So previously, or even many banks operates in nowadays, or many financial institution operates, they have their own private infrastructure. So they call it private cloud. So they have their own data centers. It's highly secured, managed, everything is absolutely fine. But it's very, very, in terms of, I would call it monolithic. Like, it's really heavy. Like, one thing goes wrong and they have a lot of issues, and like, it's not properly scaled. It's very, very costly. And in terms of the support and maintenance, they need to have a lot of skilled people involved in that as well. And to implement one small element, which we can do it on a non-financial institution, is like, it takes about a month. There in banking, typically it takes about a year. Why? Because it brings a lot of questions to be like an element to be resolved, but technically it takes time as well, which needs to be have like some sort of rapid development, rapid delivery. That's where Microsoft also solves plenty of our problems. So it could be having like, say if I want to host a database, say for example, data area, So if I want to host like in a table storage or Cosmos DB, or this is the best example, Azure Synapse Analytics. I have lots of data floating around, right, left, center, everywhere. And if I cannot perform a good analytics on it, how can I define my next best action? How can I tell my users, banking users, RM, C-level people, senior managers, that these are the actions are pending, which you need to take into accountability. You need to call certain customers. You need to perform certain KPIs, like you need to achieve those. How can you do that? There are kind of like analytics available. Nowadays, if I want to spin this up, it takes just days, not months now. So because it comes with a lot of power, it comes with a security recommendation, it comes with a compliance in place, and it's hosted in cloud. So what I need to think is just OpEx cost, and that's how I can implement. So that is like one of the area I would like you to consider is like there are different area hybrid cloud. This is still a case for many institutions because they still don't trust cloud, and it's common. It's like it's just a more like a nervousness I would like to mention. So they're still looking into like many banks are now going entirely digital. The couple of banks I've worked with, I cannot name it, but one is in public, like we can say Metro Bank. Metro Bank is pretty much like, and I would say 90%, 99% is a cloud. It's a digital bank. So those, and they also consumes a lot of Microsoft capabilities, and they solve their day-to-day problems. So you have compute, storage, all this like functionality is available. The comprehensive list I just showed you earlier, there are so many services, they're endless. And typically in our team, when we actually deliver as a team, we have a dedicated team expertise into those areas. So say, for example, integration, there's a separate team who actually does that. Application platform, separate team. Data is a separate team. And they actually need to worry about compliance, security, and all this area. So I'll just give one example, integration, because every time we deploy Dynamics or Power Platform or any of those capabilities, the first question we get asked, how I'm going to bring data from my other banking platforms, or how I'm going to give that data back within the security in matter, RBAC in matter, field level security consideration, and also like user level permissions and elements needs to be considered, whether who owns that record, which department owns that record, and I still want to do the integration. So how can I do this? So Microsoft Azure capabilities can come in the picture, can help you out. And that includes like app services. Nowadays it's spinning up really fast. It's quickly you can build it. Again, as I said, there are multiple code support capabilities are there. So you can develop this Azure App Service in PHP nowadays. You can develop in Node.js, which is a very famous. And you can have like your team quickly spinned up to deliver those kind of services. So what this gives me in a real life experience is I can actually implement that microservice architecture concept into every corner of this area. So I can give like app service, certain amount of app services to give it to a Node.js team, and they develop their certain. I don't need to worry about whether they are skilled in C# or not. I can have another set of team who are very skilled in C#, very skilled in ASP.NET. I just give it to them and say like, you're still developing Azure App Service. And it is like serverless architecture. I don't have to worry about maintaining server. I don't have to worry about the scalability. If this particular one of the app service I have deployed, and if that demands more resource, I can automatically scale it. And it can scale up and scale down, depends on the demands and the requirement. So this is a very like effective, and so far every bank's or financial institution, wealth management, or like an investment management institution, I have utilized Azure and the IPaaS capability, integration platform as a service. These are all my go-to places every day. Like I look at it, if I want to, I'll give you one example. About a week ago, I had a requirement, and the requirement was very simple. They had a mobile app. they actually have it. The customers literally go onto the mobile app, look at their products, and then complete their forms, and some of the marketing activity goes in that as well. And there was a requirement that they need a push notification to be done. Now, if you have a Google app, you have to go with the Firebase. If you have iOS app, you have to go for APN, Apple push notification. Now, every time you go, there are different services, and you need to integrate this with the different services. The biggest problem is, how can I centralize and relay those messages from one single platform and distribute it over? And that problem solves by Notification Hub in Azure. Hi, Raz. Sorry, you have a question?
Hi, Narayan. Just to remind you, you've actually got 15 minutes left for this session, if that's okay.
Wow. OK, let me speed this up.
Thanks.
OK, no problem. Thank you. So I'm just going to go quickly on the next topic on this one. So Azure comes with so many services. Now it's going to some people may even get scared and some people may get excited. Now I need to deploy. I need to roll out all this services, platforms, everything. How can I do that very rapidly? Now Microsoft also provides a solution for that. I'm not sure if anyone has heard about it's called Blueprint. So in a Blueprint, I can define which services I need and how many problems this solves. Just have a look at it. I produced a diagram which actually gives me my application layout. I produced diagrams which actually tells me how my deployment is going to work. How I produce a some sorts of configuration which says what policy needs to be applied, whether this particular services should be only consumed from UK, it should only consume within Europe, or only consume within certain region. I can enforce that policy on the subscription level, tenancy level, or resource group level. And if I want to do this, I don't have to click on individual resource group and other apply those policies and everything. What I simply do, go into compliance in a Blueprint. I'm not sure if I can actually quickly demo it to you guys, but I will try if the time permits in the end of the session. So what I do, I list down all the services. I kind of create documents. I press a button and Azure does the job for you. I'm making it very simple, but it is really simple if you look at it. So it's just the effort you need to put on. It's just that you create your own basket. Shopping, simple as shopping basket. You put all your services, you put all the configuration in one simple document. You prefer that, you hit a button, it deploys. It's really brilliant services, and I use it plenty of time. It's still in a preview, but I still use it. I love it because it solves my problem. I don't have to wait for a certain team to actually come back and say, OK, deploy DNS services, deploy Key Vault for my configuration values to be stored. And that actually solves a lot of problems. So that's one of the service I would like you to explore. Just go on Azure, search for Blueprint, and there are plenty of resources available. The next thing I would like to cover from the experience. These are the key pillars you always think when you actually architect your solution, and particularly when you're planning to implement it. So. And that has one of the middle one, which I want to pick up, cost optimization. So if I go into this Blueprint, I have a list of my items I needed. I can go into Azure Calculator and put my costing, typical costing. Obviously, that your master level service agreement says different cost model, which is you need to validate. But I have a public cost is available. I can, as an architect, I can actually literally predict and go to my senior management and say, here is a solution. This is what we need. And this is what going to cost, and this is your OPEX cost. So this is that's another way you can have a lot of benefits bringing into it. So the key pillars are reliability. You have to have your solutions reliable, whether it's connected with Dynamics, whether it's connecting with another services, or whether it's solving another purpose, whether it's solving the log analytics, AI-based solution, or even any part of the cognitive services. Chatbot or anything, or even Microsoft Communication Framework if you have Azure Communication Framework if you have implemented. You must think about the reliability. How reliable is your solution? How secure is your solution? Whether it still fits within my cost, because this is one of the biggest element you always keep in mind that you are not putting any of your solution which end of the month going to empty your wallet. So we need to be very careful, because typically you hear the Azure is no good, but Azure is good, its solution is no good, the way we implement it. So we need to be very careful. Operational excellence, performance efficiency, all these elements are like, need to be thought about. And if you go to Microsoft Azure well-architected framework, it gives you all the knowledge you need. Okay. Many of the speakers already taught, describe about the security and compliance. So Azure, Dynamics 365, all this security, the compliance has been taken care of Microsoft. So if I just bring one of the, this page here. So in this page, you can actually, if your management asks you whether your solution complies with 27001. So you can just simply go to this page, click on it, and you can bring all your details, whatever detail you need. You can get the latest report, download the report, and give it to, obviously you need to sign in, you need to have the audit report access. If you are a partner, you can easily get the access. If you're not partner, it's not a customer, you can still sign up for the free trial and download those reports. And you have so let me cancel it right now. And you can see plenty of reports are available and they are continuously getting renewed. So Microsoft always look into it. These are you can see the date by date, how recents are there. And once you actually download, this is example, Azure Dynamics Online Services ISO 27001. This is a security standards. So you can download and submit this along with your architecture. So this is really, really beneficial. Okay, I'm going to skip it. So this one is about time, and there is one element I would like you to look at it is a security center. If you have a trial Azure subscription, or from your organization you have a subscription, try and gain access, read-only access at least, to look at the security center. You will see what level of information helpful information you can get. So it's got the security score, you got regulatory compliance, you got inventory management, you got the Azure Defender, brilliant information management element, these are the stuff. Every solution requires, or these are the common questions I get asked: security, privacy, compliance, GDPR, data location, data subject request. One of the example I can give you, we got really excited when we had the Sales Insight launch, Customer Insight launch. The question came from the ARB, Architecture Review Board, or TDA, where your data travels end to end. Give me the visibility, and that visibility will influence me to approve your solution. We went back and looked at it, and at that time it was very new. So at that time it was touching some of the servers in US to process that AI-based element. And we got the solution declined, simple. So you need to be very careful when you're actually designing your solution in a banking or financial institution. These are the questions you always need to keep in mind and ask yourself, whether it complies with the banking and the regulatory limitations. Let me just shorten out. I have actually taken some of the slide out when I was told about 30 minutes timeline. So I got 6 minutes. So if anyone has any question, I'll be very happy to help. Raz, are you there?
Hello. Hi there, Narayan.
Hi.
So okay, you still have 5 minutes, Narayan. If you want to carry on, you still have 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can actually carry on certain things here. Let me just go into the real system and just show some of the elements here. So once I log into my Azure resource, I can actually literally go into the services. I can look at my resources and everything. Let me just show the services here. All the services are available. I'll give you another example, which is let me define this own custom requirement, the requirement I was presented with. So I was asked to spin up portal, the Power Apps portal, as a customer self-service, which requires a single sign-on. Now, what that single sign-on is going to be, that we need to decide, but we want to make the customer's life easier. So it can, like, a customer can use their own existing social media account. Obviously, that self-service wasn't disclosing any kind of financial data. So there was a one of those limitations, one of those requirement barrier was that. So it's actually worked in a positive way. And also we want to manage if that element has been raised in complaints, it needs to be done and tackled properly in a Dynamics 365 customer service with a certain SLA to be applied. And also the chatbot needs to be implemented so customer can be given all the advices or answered their questions middle of the night when the customer service agents are not available. On top of that, we need to establish a lot of communication channels, and that where we utilize Azure Communication Framework for SMS. Obviously, that can be achieved by Omnichannel as well. Omnichannel gives you a lot of flexibility there as well. While doing this, we have Azure AD, which serves the authentication purpose. But would I put my own main tenant Azure AD to define the solution? No, because that's my internal Azure AD, which has my own user login details and everything stored. All the devices are registered. So what would I do? It's like simply spin up Azure B2C. So when I go into Azure B2C, the good element is I can actually spin up another Azure AD. Now Microsoft allows you to spin up multiple tenants, like an Azure AD within one tenant. So I can simply just go in there, enable this Azure AD and register my own application. When you register the application, you have multiple options being provided, whether you want this AD to be available within the organization or multi-tenant, or could be any kind of personal Microsoft accounts only. And then once I have OAuth and the redirection URL has been established, I could simply just go and expose those authentication URL with the Power Apps portal. So I can also enable any other B2C authentication layer, which is like Facebook, Twitter, all those a service provider. But along with this, I can actually put my B2C. The benefit it's going to spin up another separate directory. So all my users, everything will be centralized within that. So users means customers, sorry. So that the app use, the portal users, they will be all grouped into this. Now that makes a lot easier for me to manage it in terms of the say I need to do maintenance, I need to do upgrades, I need to make sure there are no risk is carrying compliance risk or no security risk. And if I want to do audit, everything, it makes it easy because it's a segregated directory, which is for customers only. And it also secure. So you cannot just because you spin up B2C, you cannot just go and read the password, obviously, but those are the stuff which gives the benefit. So that's one of the example I just wanted to give in terms of the architecture. If any particular element would you like to explore, just let me know. But I will continue with let me continue with the blueprint. Blueprint is something one of the area you should explore as well. It's still in preview. It's coming up really nicely. So you have the blueprint established. Once you know what you want to create, you can create a blueprint from blank, or you can have some of the samples provided by Microsoft. So example, I'm working with the health institution, then HIPAA is good, which I can establish. If I'm working with Azure Security Benchmark Foundation, that's a compliance is good. I can do, if I'm a Canada Federal PBMM controls I want to put into place, I can do this. I have common policies. So let me pick up one of them. So if I want to do PCI DSS, sorry. So payment gateway and everything I'm implementing, I want to make sure my platform is compliant with the PCI. I can just go into that, simply give a name. I select the location. So I can just give my MPN subscription, go to artifacts. And this sample literally defines what are the policy I want to apply for PCI compliance. So this is already there. Deploy threat detection on SQL Server. It's already there. Or I can just go into simply artifact type. policy assignment, role assignment, Azure Resource Manager, or resource group. If I want to assign on the resource group, I can then put a particular tag name to fetch it, any display name, and then continue, add that. Like, and it will give you next option. Just don't want to get stuck into like in a deployment. It takes some time sometimes. So like, I just want to come up on that one. Other thing like, track assignments, apply to scope. These are the stuff like, I can easily implement it. You can also create those blueprint if you have like multiple, say example, my financial institution is globally established. I have created my software services, my establishment, which going to work in multiple countries. So that means per region, regulatory region, I need to duplicate that environment, deploy it, which carries all the same characteristic in terms of backups, in terms of which user can access that environment, which region, which like in an area. Also like whether it needs to be having the scale set in and out rules, policies needs to be defined. All this element, if I want to define it, I can simply enforce it from here. I could even go into the RESTful API element, and I have a CI/CD pipeline to call this PowerShell script or anything like which can communicate with the REST API, combine it, and when I hit a button, it just deploys it. Spins up new environment, new country rollout becomes a lot easier. And what you need to do every time you upgrade your environment, you change your environment, you just need to go and change your blueprint. So that's one other thing I wanted to actually give a quick overview. You have an advisor, which I did mention that like it actually gives you like cost recommendation, security recommendation, reliability. Obviously, I don't have enough data on this one, so it's not going to give you any details. But I can actually do the cost and budgeting as well, which is a very, very critical element. So I would strongly recommend that you must have that consideration in place. You cap the budget on the Azure whenever you utilize Azure. Another example I would like to quickly carry on. Before that, going into that, like Azure Arc, I'm not sure if you are familiar with it. Every financial institution doesn't rely on one cloud. They always ask you to like get into like a different cloud. So they pretty much every high street banks I have worked with, they always have either element of GCP, Google Cloud Platform, element of AWS, and there's some like many of the services from Azure. Now, the management of all these cloud-based services, it's painfully complex, and a lot of like like monitoring and also like deployment, and also like checking what's going on in terms of those services, how it's consuming, how it's scaling out, and all these things. Azure Arc really helps me out. And particularly when you have a containerized Dockers and all this multiple VMs deployed, that could help me to manage very, very easily. So the one demo I would like to include is, say, let's go into IPaaS. So API. So we have an API management service. So let me demonstrate this quickly, API management service. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with, say, Logic Apps. So let's spin up like Braz, you need to stop me, yeah, when you want me to, and I'll continue developing one of those apps.
Hi, Narayan. Actually, we've come to the end of your time now.
Okay.
So we can obviously, so please share your contact details, and people can get in touch with you if they've got more questions regarding Azure for financial services. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So if I have only just a couple of minutes, I just want to quickly show like what you can actually pretty much do on the Logic app. So like I could simply like it's similar to Power Automate, pretty much same thing. So like there was one of the example I did say like okay, I want to create multiple vault in terms of the notification. So when I want to create a customer notification, I can just obviously initialize the variable, then I can just go into the like the various conditions. I can actually element like consider like what's my B2C IDs, and then based on the like I can distribute my multiple checks. Sorry, I'm just going a little bit fast, but like, you know, I can literally throw a separate code if certain type of errors are coming. So say contact not found, code 400, any particular error message I want to share. So my custom error messages where I have a collection of messages which I can share. So these are the some of the stuff available. I can actually literally push this what kind of notification message I want to send. So that was one of the example I was giving. Now what I can simply do is just like put down this one HTTP receive is it like it's not really trigger, it's just an element like so it generates a public URL. Now obviously I need to restrict this URL from access like without going through the APIM. So I could definitely do that, but again like if I want to directly just monetize one of those service which is maybe just allowing only get or post, I can define the method. And once that method has been defined based on that, like it will serve the purpose. Now, when I actually solve this, I just copy this URL. Literally, I can go into the URL and try and invoke this service. So it's just RESTful service. But when I go into the Postman, I can literally put all my parameters, define this payload, and actually retrieve the response, whatever the response I need. But if I now go into the APIM, API management service. So when I go into the API management service, and if I have any kind of API developed, just for the concept about time, so I could actually potentially define my what level of services I want to serve. So pricing tier, which is standard, comes with a 99.9% SLA support, and then I can go into literally API. Implement API, so I can just go in API and like literally try and establish whether it's a display name or name URL, anything which I want to put down, and then I just put trigger this API here, say test API, and and I want to give a suffix saying okay, customer info. So my URL literally now you can see the APIM URL is generated differently. The APIM, I literally enforce its subscription key. I can enforce my OAuth 2.0 login. So those are the authentication definitely comes from it secures your environment. Once I have created, I can then spin up my developer portal to monetize my API. So I can simply just go on that. So example, I have a dynamic services available. And the dynamic services also along with some of the other multiple production environments, which brings the data. And I want to combine the data and give them a one single snapshot of that particular response. I could simply just go and spin up one of the portal, and when the portal is published, you can actually literally go into API and it actually generates the documentation for you. And that is available. So what are the my endpoints are available, what are how I can actually try. So if I just give that publish a portal and the consumer themselves, literally they go and say, I want a C# implementation, it gives you code suggestion as well. So it's a full on documentation this gives you. What you need to do is you need to provide the authentication or the subscription permission from the API, so they cannot access by any general public. It's just only controlled by the product relay. So it controlled by who's subscribed to whether you want to charge them for the data you monetizing it. So you can actually take it through the payment gateway, get it charged. Their subscription gets renewed. Once it gets renewed, they get access to it. So it's a really a simple element here. You can actually define your own different products. So you can have the different product with the different sets of API. So if I have an unlimited product, I can define what are the API endpoints I want to expose for that particular product. So it's really good. So again, my dynamics, all this element of data, or marketing data I have, which if I want to monetize to even our internal consumer, different departments or different banking apps or platforms, they can just consume it through that. Because most of the time what they do is department costing model is there. So you charge back for the services they consume. So that could be one of those elements you can use from the Azure. I'm just going to wrap it now because of the time. So yeah, any question, final question, then I'll take it. Else I'll share my contact detail in chat, so please reach out to me.
Thank you once again, Narayan. So yeah, please share your contact details. And as Rishi mentioned there, this session could be a conference in itself. So thank you, Rishi. So Narayan, we're going to hand over to our next speaker now. It's 10 minutes overdue. So without further ado, I want to announce Josh Santiago joining us all the way from the United States. Hello there, Josh.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be with you.
Thank you, Josh, and may the power be with you too. And Josh, so it's great to have you today. So I obviously don't want to delay you any further. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, and the show is all yours.
Awesome. Well, good. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you taking time out of your evening to join with us today. And I'm excited to talk about some of the new things that Microsoft has built out in terms of what Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations has available in the realm of fraud protection and risk mitigation. So I'll truncate some of